waking up Southern Ontario. Thanks for starting your Tuesday with us. This is Morning Live. May is Speech and Hearing Awareness Month in Canada. And joining us now is Frank Skubski from Beltone Canada, talking about the importance of getting our hearing checked. Thanks so much for joining us, Frank. This is an issue that impacts many Canadians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, approximately 1 out of 4 Canadians, we estimate, have some sort of a hearing loss. One thing that we really do know, though, is only about 10% of all Canadians actually will admit that they have a hearing loss. So the incidence of hearing loss is much more prevalent than what we originally believed.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I'm sure there is denial.
Absolutely, there's denial. I mean, hearing loss, I would say, in most cases is related to age. As we get older, some of our senses tend to dull. We hit 50, we start getting reading glasses. Hearing loss is very gradual, and eventually...
It does creep up.
It does creep up on you, for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the telltale signs? For someone watching at home that, you really should be watching for?
Well, number one, I would say is that...
listening for.
Yeah, it really is, if you're asking people to repeat themselves a lot, for instance, that could be a sign of hearing loss. If you're involved in a group conversation and maybe you just didn't hear something properly, especially if it's noisy around you. But really what we hear most of all is that hearing loss affects everybody, including the people that are close to the hearing impaired person, because in general what tends to happen is you walk into the house and the TV set is way too loud, or the radio is too loud, and you're kind of wondering, hey, why is mom or dad or my grandfather listening to the television set so loud? It's probably because of a hearing loss.
Mm-hmm. And when untreated, there's an isolation there, from...
Absolutely.
And, depression can follow. You withdraw.
You withdraw, for sure. And I think one of the things that, especially we see like in movies and on television, we tend to make light of the hearing impaired person. I always remember that movie Christmas Vacation with the one elderly woman in there who can't hear, and they're really kind of making gags around the whole thing, but it really isn't funny. And then she just that person will just tend to withdraw and not participate.
Since that movie came out, though, I mean, certainly there's a lot more options in terms of treatment. I mean, there's permanent hearing loss, but there are ways of slowing down the hearing loss.
I mean, it's like anything. It's like any muscles in your body or whatever. I mean, if you don't use them, you're going to start losing the ability to utilize them at 100%. Hearing loss, basically we have nerves in our inner ear, and if we're not stimulating those nerves anymore, they're just not going to work. So something like a hearing aid, for instance, will deliver sound, to be able to be picked up by those nerves who might not be working optimally.
And there's a huge leap forward in the technology. You brought some samples here.
Absolutely, yeah. From Beltone, I mean, we are probably the leader in wireless technology out here today. We have hearing instruments where you can have all sorts of wireless accessories with them. They can even pair with your Apple iPhone, your iPad. And I was just showing you,
Frank has an Apple Watch.
I have an Apple Watch in which you can actually control your hearing aid.
Show it to that camera right there.
The Apple Watch. So for instance, you just got to click it. There, for instance, there you can say adjust the volume on the hearing aid.
All right, that's the future right there.
That's the future right there, for sure.
And some of these larger ones you can actually stream from your phone to your ear.
Exactly. I mean, you can stereo stream directly to your hearing instruments. You can FaceTime. The one I really like on it is GPS prompts. When you're driving in your car, and if you've got the Apple Watch, this thing vibrates when you're supposed to make a turn, but then you can also have somebody talking directly into your ear.
Yeah. And of course, vanity is always a big issue too. So there's, a price point here, but you can get the nanotechnology is pretty good these days too. This is an example here.
Yeah, this is a very tiny, tiny hearing instrument that we have. It's called a completely in canal product. So it's for that person that doesn't want anybody to know.
They're very discreet. Yeah. Just a minute left, but quick tips just in terms of preventing hearing loss.
Well, I think number one, be aware of your environment. If you are doing something and it's very, very noisy, take the proper steps either to step away from the sound, don't be directly in front of it. But hearing protection is important too. For instance, I see a lot of people say with ride-on lawnmowers, operating chainsaws, no hearing protection whatsoever. Also, listen to, if you're listening to music or whatnot.
Yeah, you have a lot of musician clients.
Yeah, reasonable volume for that, because, I see people driving in their cars and the music's cranked, and I just kind of snap my finger and say, hey, that's going to be a future customer of ours.
Yeah,
so
right. Pete Townsend of The Who is actually a famous example of that.
Correct, yeah, and he has constant ringing in his ears too,
Right.
from exposure to loud sounds.
Yeah. All right, lots more information online. We'll link up your website at chch.com on this Hearing Awareness Month. All right, the news at 8 o'clock is next. Thank you, Frank. We're back with more Morning Live after this.